This is Coffee Number 5. I'm your host, Lara.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Number 5. My coffee is ready, hot, and ready for another great chat. So over time, I heard about these three letters, CPG, 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 and those words that you end up giving for granted. You kind of know what it is, but you really don't know what it is. But people keep talking about it. And finally, one day I said, I need to find out what CPG is. So I went to my friend Google and I asked. And wow, CPG means so much more than what we think that it means. So today I brought you an expert and let's talk CPG. So welcome, Daniel.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So happy to have you here. And so what's CPG?
CPG for sure is consumer packaged goods. So it's the name of this industry that me and most of my friends work in, one that everybody will be familiar with, even if they aren't familiar with the acronym. If you've ever walked into a 7-Eleven or a Whole Foods, most of the stuff that you're looking around and seeing is a consumer packaged good. So anything basically in there that's not like produce or from the deli that isn't really wrapped for you to buy and scan at the register, that the rest of the stuff is all consumer packaged goods. So
this includes beauty products, includes toys.
yeah, I mean, yeah, definitions can vary a little bit, but at least the way I look at it primarily would be food, beverage, health, beauty, wellness, supplements, pet products, alcohol, a lot of the emerging CBD stuff, basically anything that is, I would say, more high velocity type products. So like, okay, you could have a toaster, which it is technically packaged often for a consumer to buy at a store, but traditionally the CPG category would look at more high moving product stuff that you might buy over and over again, like a bar of soap you need a bunch of times, unless you have
and you create that loyalty also to the brands.
Yeah, right. So yeah, mainly that, like higher velocity type stuff, the kind of stuff you'll
I
find.
have to confess, at the beginning, I really thought that CPG was just food and beverage. And then I started to understanding that CPG covers a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think probably most of us in food and beverage really self-identify as CPG. Probably, I mean, but it does cover a lot of other things. But if you talk to an alcohol founder, they're like, "What industry are you in?" They would probably say bev alc, like beverage alcohol. Be like, "Oh, are you in CPG?" Well, yeah, also that. Sort of like if you ask somebody from Texas, like, where are they from? They're like Texas, whereas a lot of other people might say like the US or something, like people have different identities depending on which category that they're in. But I would say food and beverage, we identify with CPG very hard because a lot of us will work across different companies in the space as well. I think beauty products definitely have their own kind of identity. They would say more, beauty but the things that unite us in CPG are just the similarities in the business models. Most of us are pretty focused, I would say, on retail grocery. So it differs in different categories. Like in food and beverage, we're really focused on, if you're creating a better for you product, probably trying to get into Whole Foods at some point and building your brand that way in like higher end natural type stores, maybe eventually getting big enough to get into the Walmarts and the Costco's, getting that mass adoption, right? But these like retail, like a lot of us focus on that. I would say there are some differences. People who are more focused on beauty might have a lot more options in the e-commerce space.
Well, I really think that the differentiation there is in how you ship products and to maintain the products. And beauty, you can ship it and in 3-4 days. Food, not everything. A lot of things can go bad.
Yeah, and if it's refrigerated or frozen, it adds a lot of cost to the product. But I think it ultimately also just comes back down to margins. So a beauty product, you might have a little tube of something that costs $80 and it weighs almost nothing, and that then gives you a lot of budget to try to acquire customers online. And as most people know, the cost to acquire customers online, like the marketing cost through things like Meta, like all of that stuff went up a lot.
I know that.
Yeah. So it went up a lot. They made those changes with the operating system about tracking people. And, so with food and beverage, it doesn't work out quite so well because the product's a lot heavier and it's a lower price point. So just generally, again, just stereotyping here, but like, generalizations are not always true. In general, food and beverage would be more focused on that grocery volume, like trying to really eventually knock it out of the park at
Yeah,
Kroger.
but also I think it's something with the user experience. Someone in the food, you want to see how it looks, you want to taste it. It's like that's why you have so many demos in supermarkets and even Costco. Tell me that you didn't go to Costco and you try 1,000 things.
I loved it. As a kid, I would go, I think to some store that was a predecessor to Whole Foods, like, Mom, can we go and run around and just eat all the free cheese and bread samples? And yeah, food is very much like it really helps when you can just try something instead of just hearing about it.
Yeah, and it's a lot goes a lot more in your senses because you can see it, you can try it, you can smell it.
Yeah, it's funny, sometimes I ask the buyers for stores, like, how do you actually try a beauty product versus food or beverage? Because I feel really confident about food or beverage. You can look at the ingredients, you can try it, you can know if you would want to buy something like that. Often with beauty, a lot of it is about, does this have the impact that it's supposed to? Is this an effective product? And a lot of that stuff requires a routine, right? And you can't expect.
Of course, I mean, beauty products, you really cannot see if it works in like until 3 months at least.
And that's like, you as a consumer might take a gamble on a product every couple months. Like, all right, now maybe I'll try this. But imagine you're the person who's making those decisions for Whole Foods or, Sephora, wherever. Like, you're not going to just all of a sudden add in 10 new products to your routine every 30 days and try them all and see if they work. It's impossible to know that. So, when you talk to buyers who make decisions about what products go on shelf, it is pretty interesting to hear how they actually will assess it. And
Oh, tell me more.
a lot of it is on the fragrance of a beauty product. Like so they'll obviously look at it and see the labels, see what the ratings are if there are any. But yeah, they're like they'll smell the thing and like, oh, is that like a nice? That matters a lot more than I hear them talk about the importance of that, even for like food and beverage.
And how in food and beverage, how's the decision of
I mean, I think.
in a new product?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for every buyer out there, but I think in general, they want products that the consumers are looking for, and they just taste more than anything. Like the thing has got to taste good, and then hopefully it performs on other things. Like
That's
it's
so
cool.
personal. They don't have at least like a few people trying it.
I wouldn't say they have like panels of people tasting stuff. I will say, okay, when you're a founder for a CPG company, or let's say you're just like a expert product developer and taster, you should be able to get to the point where you can taste a product, even if it's not for you, and know if somebody who likes that kind of product would like it. I never got there. I was the CEO for a beverage company. I have I think a pretty strong palate, and I think I'm very good at tasting the, complexity in a beverage and being like, okay, this is actually too watery and I need more body in it here. And this aftertaste I don't like, but ultimately I can only really say if I like it or not. I can't taste a blueberry flavor and say if somebody who really likes blueberry is going to like that flavor, or like I don't really drink matcha, and so I just like can't taste.
Honestly, I don't think I could be doing that job. I would be so bad. There are some things. Actually, I was talking today about a beverage. Like, how anyone likes that? I'm like very, very judgmental, but people buy it and drink it.
I don't know. I'm kind of the same way. I'm like, I don't understand how anyone could like this kind of a whatever, I mean, just certain things that I personally don't really drink that much, like kombucha or matcha. But there are plenty of people who are super passionate about them. And whether that's a natural thing for people to like, it's programmed in, or maybe it's an acquired taste, or, people really, I don't know, learn to love it. Who knows?
Yeah, learn to like it. So let me ask you a question, because you started something very special that is called Startup CPG. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, definitely. So Startup CPG is the biggest community in the world for the founders of all of those kind of products. And the reason I started it is because 8 years ago, I was working at one of these CPG companies, and I looked around and just saw how hard it is. Everybody out there is trying to get money from those kind of brands. If they're the person who knows the name of the packaging company that you probably need to talk to, they might be like, okay, give me a retainer and then I'll tell you the name of that person. It's just like they have to pay for that. They have to pay for everything.
I know. It's horrible. I'm a connector. I'm an introduction, and I will never occur to me to try someone to have as a client just to give an introduction. Introductions
Yeah.
are free.
Yeah. And then, you need that money too, because you're eventually going to have to pay the slotting to get into a big grocery store and pay the distributor fees and all these other things.
Okay,
So,
okay. Hold on. Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's
yeah.
put a pin on that. Keep telling us about uh, Startup CPG, because those are all the questions I want to ask.
Yeah, so it's very hard. Anyways, that's the point. And so I've always been a community builder. Like going back to my very early career days, I would always just take what I was doing and get excited about it and want to build community around it and find other people who wanted to share knowledge. And so I just started building this community, and it was always going to be free because I didn't want to be yet another person charging brands and entrepreneurs who are trying so hard to build this thing. And so, fast forward, basically after a lot of work and excuse me, after a lot of work and a lot of growing the team and just trial and error on different kind of initiatives, we are now the biggest community in the world for these founders. So we have an online Slack channel with 30,000 people in it. And
wow.
The coolest thing is, so imagine that packaging question. You can basically go in there if you're a brand and ask any question you want. Like, hey, does anyone know who manufactures this kind of a product that could help me? And someone will just give the answer. There's no like, yeah, hire me or have a call. No, just give the answer. And then they know you're somebody who actually knows this stuff, because we have so many great experts in the community who actually do love to answer those kind of questions and give help. That's the community that we have created for all of them. So it is the biggest and free community in the world for all of the founders in that space. But on top of just being a place where I think we can help people with connections and knowledge, we do a lot more. The main thing that they really need is help getting into retail distribution. And so we actually do 100 events a year, and a lot of them are focused on just getting those brands connected to the retailers. We want to do, like last week, we did an event in Chicago where the brands could come and meet the person who is the quote unquote forager for Whole Foods in the Midwest, who is fantastic. And she just came to the event and tried every single product there, and everyone got to talk to her. There was a huge line of people. And that's kind of the promise of this. It's called Grocery Run. That's our national event series where we're connecting brands with retailers in their local markets. And we don't charge brands thousands of bucks for this. We just really try to cover our event fees. And it's fantastic because so many brands are getting yeses from those buyers and getting on shelf and starting their journey or continuing their ascent. And
sometimes founders, the only thing that they need at the beginning is a 2 cents, and they need validation, the confirmation of what they did. It's okay. And it's so frustrating to be a founder, and it's many days you are like, why did I do this? And so you just sometimes having someone who's in the industry and telling you you're in the right directions mean everything.
And that might not even always happen, but at least we are just in their corner. We are unapologetic cheerleaders for every early brand. But it also can be an important conversation, because you might talk to that Whole Foods buyer and they're like, hey, you know what? This packaging is not going to work, and here's why. And they have a lot of insight because they've been doing this forever.
But at least you get someone is telling you the truth. I
Yeah.
feel like in this hub, I mean, as I've seen this 1,000 times or more, that you have your friends who are either loving it and they're not going to say something wrong, or like they're no one to comment. So it's just in case if they say anything.
Yes.
Then you have all these experts who want you to sign a contract with them just to give you their 2 cents, and every expert is going to tell you different 2 cents.
Yeah. And I mean, the buyer is not the ultimate authority in the industry, but they do have a lot of information, and you might hear it if you hear it from 2 or 3 buyers, then you really do have to take it seriously. But yeah, it's very important. And they might give you helpful feedback like, hey, if you just change this, then we could look at it like, okay, yeah. And then they like that you can work with them. So we do that. We also, like you, have a podcast. So I have in the CPG industry, the podcast that I host is number one. in the industry. And what we try to do is have guests that can really educate the founders. And so I love to especially have those buyers on there because they do want to hear. For like 2 weeks ago, we had the Total Wine and More buyer, that's a national retailer. And it's
Yes.
so like just for whatever reason, people just don't know a lot about them and how to get in the stores and what do they look for, what do they want. And I was so excited to get
Oh, can, that's amazing. But can we talk for a second what it really takes to get into stores or distribution? Because it doesn't mean that immediately because you get in stores, you're going to start getting a lot of money. First of all, getting into retail is an investment.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you have to be committed to it as a channel. And so, because it's not just about getting the store, but also the distribution to get your product there. And so you kind of have to do both things at once. In, let's say, food and beverage, there are kind of two big main broadline distributors who hit a lot of the like natural and higher end conventional grocery stores. So, you can kind of go and pitch directly to those retail chains, let's say. And like even on our website, we have a list of all of them that are out there. You can get it under founder resources. It's, all of the grocery stores out there in the country and which distributors they pull from. If you go get a yes from the grocery store and they're big enough, then they can actually force the distributor to carry you. Alternately, you can try to like get a bunch of little ones to say yes and also be pitching the distributor. The nice thing is once you're in with a distributor, then you just go around and figure out who else do they serve and try to pitch those accounts so that you can really leverage this distribution system that you're in. But, I think the main thing to know is it's a big, expensive channel and it has all of the reward if you can, scale in it, because just that still in this country, calm is important and will grow and take share from it. But at least, especially in food and beverage, 85 to 90% of the volume is done through the stores. And so you need to be present in the stores to get that volume. But there are going to be a lot of fees and things you need to pay along the way and understand what those
Yeah,
are.
let's talk about those fees. What are those
Yeah.
bills? What are the advertising commitments that you have with stores?
I mean, there are a lot of just overall business fees that you're going to have, but let's say, so like if you sell, like if you start with the shelf price, right? Let's say that I have a product that is on shelf for $4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the consumer price, but then the retailer isn't paying that much, right? Because they need to make
Mm-hmm.
margin on it. So let's say the retailer, I don't know, maybe they want like a 33% margin on that product.
Mm-hmm.
So, if that's the case, maybe they're paying like, let's say, 250 or something, a little bit more than that. Let's say 260 for the product. And so they're then making $1.40 off that $4. And then they're happy they've got their margin. But you're not getting that 260 in your pocket, right? Because there's also a distributor involved and they need to be paid for their services. And
Mm-hmm.
so, depending on the account, like everyone kind of knows that, if you get in with Whole Foods, there's this sweetheart deal with UNFI where it's only like an 8% markup, but
Mm-hmm.
it could be for smaller stores as much as 30%. So now that $4 product that's being sold in stores that the retailer is buying for, let's say, 260, okay, maybe the distributor is actually paying you in your pocket like, 180 or $2 for it and then going out and getting it to the stores. So, think about basically getting half then of the retail price in your pocket. Plus there's other stuff because, you always buy things that are on sale in the store and, who do you think pays for that? Mainly the brand. And,
Yeah.
there's product that spoils or, gets damaged. You have to pay these things called slotting fees, which is typically if you get into a big account, there are costs that they actually have, like they need to go change all the price tags and, they're taking a chance on a new brand. And so typically you have to give them like a free case per store of each of the products. And that can be a huge expense because think like you might be getting into 1,000 stores, right?
Yeah.
Which would be a dream.
So when you get to a store, it will be very unlikely that you will get in all the stores, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's
I mean, you got to
still
work your
excess.
way up. I mean, let's say that like in a meaningful way, there are 25 to 30,000 grocery stores in the country. Far more in like convenience and drug and stuff. But for grocery, it's, excuse me, maybe it's around that number. Like, I think, a good number in your first year in market, you might be trying to get into like 500, 1,000, 3,000 stores, something like that. And so like smaller regional chains, you might be like, yeah, can I launch in all of your 20 stores? They might say yes, if they really like your product. If you're talking to Whole Foods, Safeway, Albertsons, Kroger, they're not going to give you all, they have so many stores. Walmart is not going to give you all of their
Not
thousands
even
of
Whole
stores.
Foods.
Whole Foods, which is about 580, I think. They just, it takes a while to sell into them. Like their review, they're like, right now, let's say it's, we're in middle of 2025 for my category. Oh, I'm like launching a granola business. They might say, hey, we're going to review that in February of 2026. And then those products that we like, we're going to take on shelf in mid 2026. So you're like, oh, you might be a year out from them even like placing you if they say yes. So it just can take a long time. And then they might be like, good, one region, because we don't know you. And if people
Yeah.
are really going to like this.
And what happens if you don't sell? Let's say you have a new product that the stores take it. They say, we're going to do X amount of stores. And then they found out it's not doing so well. So what's
So,
next?
I mean, the sad part of that is ultimately maybe you're not on shelf for much longer, right? Because like the store doesn't get bigger. They have a finite amount of space. And so when they're
Mm-hmm.
taking you in, they're kicking someone else out who that has happened to. So it is your responsibility as a brand to figure out how you're going to make sure it moves. How do you do that? Number one, you have a great product that has great packaging and that performs well, that people are going to want to discover and try, and then hopefully buy again, maybe tell their friends about, who knows, maybe go viral. But, I would say tactically, there are a lot of things that you would do to actually try to get people to try the product. And so some of those I mentioned before.
So
Excuse me.
let's go. So when you go into a store, it's something that I see a lot of people doing demos.
Demos for
Demos
sure.
also has a cost.
I love demos. Yeah. So I would think about it this way. Like if you go into a store and someone's there sampling a product, probably that costs them, let's say $200 to have somebody in there demoing the product. And you're going to lose money as a brand when that happens, because it's very unlikely that you're going to actually even sell $200 worth of product. Maybe you can if you're like higher price point, but ultimately this is an investment. You're trying to get a lot of people to try it and hopefully convert some of them to frequent customers. And, I think one thing that'll surprise a lot of people, like, okay, take the mayo category. How
Okay.
many, Lara, jars of mayo? Like, let's say the most popular mayo. Let's say a Hellman's mayo. I
Okay.
don't know if you're a mayo eater, but like,
I'm super mayo girls.
okay, so Hellman's mayo,
Yes,
which
I
is
do.
okay. So how many of their, like, the 30 ounce is the number one seller? If you take, let's say, like a Walmart, like big, like a normal Walmart, in a given week, how many jars of that Hellman's mayo, like the 30
Oh
ounce
no,
one, do you think? Take a guess.
I don't know. I'm really good at bad
No
at
one
numbers.
can guess. No, unless you like know the industry, it's so hard to guess this
No,
number.
but tell me.
Okay, I would say a lot of people, when I ask them that, they're like, I don't know, like a couple thousand. Is really not. It actually is very surprising. Even that like top selling product in the category, I don't know the number, but I'm guessing
Really?
I've seen the
I
number
would have
years ago,
said
but it
that
might
was
be
less than two.
okay. So for Hellman's, the top seller in that whole category, it might be 80 units per store per week. But if you take now let's say like you have Lara's mayo that you launch, right? And then it's like
Oh,
a new
it's
one.
that
You
would
would
be like one a week.
Yeah, no, but that's right. Like you could launch it and sell one a week because you're not Hellman's and no one knows you. But one a week, you might actually get to stay on shelf, especially if you're at one a week today. And then next month you're at like 1.1, because you did some demos and somebody tried it. And
Yes.
then like 6 months later, you're at 1.2. You know what you have? A growing brand. Because the buyers, they don't expect anybody to immediately
Well,
sell as
that's
well as the
actually
leader.
really good news for the brands out there.
Yeah, buyers get it. They want to see that you are a growing brand, that you can bring incremental sales into their category. They know, like, is anyone out there like just like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna like eat more Hellman's right now. Probably not. They're like, maybe they eat it historically, but they're also open to trying new things. Or maybe even like, okay, you have this new mayo brand that launched that was a celebrity backed one, and that's bringing a lot of new people into the category. And the mayo buyer likes that because they want to sell more mayo. And if they're getting like somebody who typically was buying only prebiotic sodas and they're like, oh, this influencer has a mayo, let me come buy some mayo. That's a dream for the buyer. So, you can
Uh,
sell a smaller amount.
that's so fascinating. So, Daniel, before we go, what's a no in the CPG?
Oh, there are so many no-nos, but I mean, I think just like you need to have your packaging checked. make sure you're not making any ridiculous claims or not falling into any, like ambulance chaser traps, which you can easily do. So I'd say that's one thing. And then I think
I
also,
always say for packaging, I mean, from the marketing side, look at the rules, talk to an expert, get a few eyes in it. The packaging, of course, needs to be amazing, but less is more. Don't
yeah.
try to overcomplicate it in the
Yeah,
packaging.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that. And then, I mean, I think just having a good strategy, like really, okay, how much, like be honest about how much money you have, or if you're going to raise money, have a good strategy. Don't try to tackle everything. Just really think ahead of time about what it is you're going to try to do, where you're going to try to grow, save your money for that, and use community. If you are in this space, definitely feel free to join Startup CPG. You can do that via our website. Our resources are free for brands. You can go in there and join our Slack channel.
I have something to say. Community is so important. I always tell my clients, go and network. I mean, I can introduce you a lot of people in the industry, but you need to make your own community. Talk to your peers. I mean, I'm a marketer. I'm not a brand founder. So go and talk to other brand founders, learn from their experiences.
Totally agree. That's the main thing, is because you have, I mean, that's the whole premise for our community, is everybody out there has tried to do this already. There's no sense in you trying to figure out, like, how do I launch a brand? What do I need to know about packaging? When everyone can tell you that already and free you up to just focus on the things that make you uniquely you and that are going to set your brand apart.
Okay,
So,
and I have one more thing that I always
yeah.
say to my clients. If you're a founder, concentrate on being a founder. Being a founder, the CEO, is a lot of work. Don't try to spend your time doing an Instagram post, because it's going to take you 4 times more than someone who knows how to do it. And probably you're going to do it wrong. And all the time, you didn't do something else that you need to do to move your brand.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I talk to people a lot, even in the early days, about like maybe keep your day job so you have money then to pay that Instagram person to go and do the stuff that you're not that good at.
That's a good one. Right, Daniel, thank you so much. For you guys, we're going to put all the notes in the chapter notes, links for the Startup GPT, GPG, ChatGPT. I'm getting my head a little bit scramble.
We get that a lot.
But we'll put all the notes in the chapter notes so you can join the community and you know how to reach out. And thank you so much, Daniel, for being here with us today.
Thank you. All right. Take care, everyone.
And to you guys, I will see you next week with more Coffee Number 5.
Find everything you need at laraschmoisman.com or in the episode notes right below. Don't forget to subscribe. It was so good to have you here today.
See you next time. Catch you on the flip side. Ciao, ciao.